In May 2026, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs issued Gazette Notification GSR 415E. This document inserted Rule 4A into the existing framework for corporate social responsibility. Under standard regulations, mandatory CSR capital was restricted to private direct transfers. Companies typically moved funds to NGOs through individual grant agreements. Rule 4A changes that pathway. It allows corporations to discharge their mandatory CSR obligations through a public stock exchange. This amendment empowers the Social Stock Exchange, or SSE, to act as the regulated channel for these funds. The Social Stock Exchange operates within established financial infrastructure, specifically the segment hosted by the National Stock Exchange. The mechanism is also integrated into the Secondary Recognized Exchange framework at the BSE. To meet its CSR obligations, a corporation purchases a specific instrument issued by a registered nonprofit organization. This instrument is the Zero Coupon, Zero Principal Security, or ZCZP. The ZCZP is a digital asset. When a company subscribes, the security is routed directly into their corporate demat account. This process converts a private donation into a regulated security, subject to public disclosure rules. The amendment connects India's largest mandated pool of private social capital to the transparency of a public exchange. The financial structure of a ZCZP is literal. It pays zero interest and returns zero principal upon maturity. These securities are dematerialized, tied to one specific project, and are entirely non-tradable. There is no secondary market for resale. Once the project timeline concludes, the exchange listing for that instrument terminates. This raises a practical question. Why would a corporation choose a security that offers no financial return? The answer lies in how the law treats a ZCZP subscription compared to a traditional direct donation. Neither route provides a financial return. However, Rule 4A provides a specific incentive. The company is exempted from conducting its own impact assessment for projects funded this way. By purchasing a ZCZP, the corporate funder is legally relieved of the cost and administrative burden of post-project evaluation. That reporting responsibility is transferred entirely to the issuing nonprofit organization. The NPO must provide its impact data and disclosures under the oversight of SEBI. A ZCZP functions as a legal vehicle that moves the burden of regulatory compliance from the corporate donor to the implementing NPO. Rule 4A uses three specific constraints to regulate this capital flow. The first is a limit on volume. A company can route up to 10% of its annual CSR expenditure through ZCZP instruments. The remaining 90% uses conventional channels. ZCZP is a complementary tool. The second constraint is time. Funded projects must be completed within 3 succeeding financial years. This deadline prevents NPOs from using ZCZP funds for core operations or indefinite administrative support. The third constraint is a fail-safe for unspent capital. If funds remain unspent when the listing terminates, the NPO must transfer that capital to a recognized Schedule 7 fund. The NPO then files a compliance report to SEBI proving the transfer occurred. These three structures, the 10% cap, the 3-year deadline, and the Schedule 7 backstop, create a loop that ensures CSR funds are either deployed for the project or returned to sovereign relief funds. To access this pool of capital, a nonprofit must meet strict eligibility gates set by SEBI. This starts with Phase A, registration. This must be completed before any funds can be raised. SEBI requires a track record of 3 years of existence, a minimum annual spend of 50 lakh rupees, and at least 10 lakh rupees in past funding.
The organization also needs valid 12A and 80G registrations and 3 years of audited financial statements. In April 2026, SEBI introduced a relaxation that helps NPOs manage this process. Registration is now valid for up to 3 years, even if the NPO does not immediately launch a fundraising issue. Phase A registration serves as a verifiable seal of governance, distinguishing disciplined nonprofits within the broader NGO sector. Phase B is the active issuance of the project-tied security. The issuer must first file a detailed fundraising document with the stock exchange. The minimum size for a ZCZP issue is 50 lakh rupees. Under 2026 rules, the issue succeeds if it achieves a 50% minimum subscription. If it falls short, the NPO must refund all funds to the corporate subscribers. These minimums ensure that only well-capitalized projects reach the exchange, which protects the donor's interests. The 2026 MCA Amendment applies financial market mechanics to distribute social capital, integrating corporate compliance reporting with verified social impact data. For companies, Rule 4A provides a regulated and vetted channel to deploy 10% of their mandatory CSR budget with a lower evaluation burden. For NPOs, the barrier to entry requires rigorous auditing and the capacity for continuous disclosure. Qualified nonprofits should prioritize Phase A registration now, regardless of when they plan to launch a project. Securing registration early allows an NPO to use its existing governance standards as a fundraising advantage before corporate demand scales. The ZCZP moves CSR from bilateral private agreements into a transparent, market-driven mechanism, setting a new governance standard for social impact funding in India.